I have to say that this has been the most rewarding work in my long professional career. I'm 30 years into teaching at Sewanee, and nothing that I have done in those 30 years has been as meaningful or gratifying to me. And it's especially important on a personal level to reflect on my friend Houston Roberson, my late friend and colleague Houston Roberson. He is the person whom the name of the project memorializes. I think about Houston, and I think about his inspiration as a person who really introduced African American studies at this university a full century and a half after emancipation. It means so much to me to be involved in this university's determination, its effort to take responsibility for its history, to look closely at its history, and to be honest about its history.
As a graduate student, I reached out to Dr. Woody Register and asked him about the work that the university was conducting into the nearby African American community. From there, I began to pore over the archival documents, including newspaper accounts, census records, and more, looking for the names of these community members and really attempting to understand their experiences here on the mountain. One of the things that I'll always take away from that research was not only was this a community that was just a block or two away, but this was a community that was contributing greatly to the success of this university.
I think that, Black students on campus are continuing to claim that space. And I think given the recent acknowledgement and also distribution of resources that actually tell that history, it's a lot, it's a new sphere to claim it in, because before, some people were like, oh, it's just racist and this is why we have to do this. But now with the Roberson Project, you have context to understand, why and how this space was built to be exclusive. And I think it means even more for us to continue to claim the space because we're making a statement.
One thing that was really meaningful to me in working with the Roberson Project was learning how to introduce that troubled past to my family and work through that lineage with them. I realized how important it is to be able to have access to your ancestral history, and it's a privilege for me to be able to go back and find records of my ancestors. And so I'm really excited about this Saving Sewanee Black History Project because I feel like we're making that possible for Black community members of Sewanee and their descendants, people who don't live in Sewanee anymore but want to know about that tie they have to Sewanee. So it's very meaningful to be able to contribute to that database and to see it grow and to see it be controlled by the very people who are donating that memorabilia to us to be able to archive digitally.
And the first time I heard about Sewanee is when I got the job and came up here for a campus visit. And it's so interesting because I think I was initially shocked by the very unique history of Sewanee. But even though its history is unique as an institution, its ties to slavery and racism and the Lost Cause and the Confederacy is entirely commonplace for universities, Southern and Northern. And so I think this university really shows, and the Roberson Project really shows, that work like this should be happening at all universities, and especially if it can happen here at Sewanee, where their ties are very blatant, while other universities probably hide their ties a little bit better, then it can happen anywhere. And we're really hoping that the Roberson Project is one of many that'll pop up at other universities and show universities how to do this type of reckoning work that's really important for fully understanding how universities have played a part in America's ties to racism.
So the Roberson Project has affected me personally in terms of allowing me to not just, teach in the classroom and tell students, hey, this is what you can do with history. And the students go, oh, well, that's so long ago. It is, hey, this is history in motion, history in action, history that affects the community. We're part of this global trend that's happening. And it's not going to just be colleges and universities, but also sites of public memory, whether they are museums, whether they are historical homes. And it's something where we're part of this greater movement. And we're leading this movement in terms of the digital humanities elements, as well as touching local lives. Not just saying, oh, we're doing this research and we're not going to interview local people and go to the archives, like several of these researchers. We're interviewing several people and we're incorporating local individuals into this process of discussion about how we can remember people, how we can bring this story to life, and really integrate the university with the community.
The last 5 years have seen Sewanee not just take responsibility for its history with slavery and with Jim Crow and other oppressive forms of racist injustice in the South over the last century and a half and more. We've also seen Sewanee become one of the leaders in this movement in higher education across the eastern part of the United States and beyond. We are not just a participant in this movement, we are one of those institutions that believes, because of our history, we are obligated to do more. I'm reminded of something that my colleague and friend Houston Roberson used to say, and he's not the only one who said this. Houston always reminded me and his students here that African American history is American history. And I would expand that through the Roberson Project to say that African American history is Sewanee history, is American history. That is part of the larger goals of this project, to be a leader in this movement in higher education, to be accountable for our past and to determine for ourselves how we will respond to our history and what we do in the present and the future.